some people that go through the system very linear, in a very linear way, and get to being really good and PhDs and stuff, whatever it is. And you get these other people who come in at sort of an angle that go and jump all that lot, didn't do very well at school, but actually come up with the most amazing solutions to problems. And they're the ones that come up with the completely out of the box thinking.
Today's guest is my dear friend, Olive Hickmott. Now, Olive, before I even introduce you, you've been on the show a few times now, and I absolutely welcome you back with open arms. It's always fantastic to have you here. So thank you in advance.
Thank you so much. It's a long time since we first met.
Yes, a number of decades.
Or two.
Yes, definitely. And it's been a pleasure every time. So that's brilliant. So with that said, Olive Hickmott, a forensic health and learning coach, a reformed dyslexic and ADHD, she created empowering learning to enable highly creative, imaginative, neurodivergent students to learn in the most effective way for them. That is typically through their strengths of mental imagery. She personally struggled with poor reading and spelling for 50 years before making the vital discovery of how visual thinkers learn best through images. Olive trains and coaches teachers, parents, children, and adults in improving their experience of dyslexic and ADHD. Welcome, Olive.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. And with that said, what is one of the most courageous things you've done? Because you've done an awful lot of things.
What's the most courageous thing I've done? I always wonder whether I am being courageous or whether I'm just being absolutely, I won't change my mind. But what happened to me was that back in 25 years ago, I was sitting in a workshop doing my NLP training, that's neuro-linguistic programming training, and I saw something that was in plain sight. They got some people up on the stage, and the people who could spell easily looked up and saw words. The people who couldn't looked at the floor and felt embarrassed. And it was absolutely obvious to the audience. And I went, how do they do that? I've had poor spelling and reading all my life. And by this time I'm 50-ish. And how do they do that? And so with my NLP hat on, if you like, I started practicing I walked into a special needs school where I happened to know the deputy head. And I said, have you got anybody who can't spell? He said, we've got hundreds, which ones do you want? And so I started to teach them what I just learnt 2 days before, and I couldn't believe what I could achieve. And so slowly my own experience improved. The students improved even faster than I was, and that was what happened. Now, was that courageous? I suppose it was courageous walking into a special needs school after 2 days of training, and but I happened to know the guy, so that was really easy. And it was so rewarding working with these kids that it wasn't courageous anymore. It was just an absolute delight.
Oh, wow. And yeah, it helps to know the deputy head, I can assure you.
If I only knew him socially, I'd met him at a few, because the school is in our village. And so I'd met him at a few events. And so I just went, we'll go for this. And it was really exploration.
I mean, that's interesting in itself, that you could instantly see the difference it was making, and you were teaching others. Yeah.
And those kids helped me learn how to teach people. And I always say, if you can teach in special needs school, you can teach anywhere. I mean, for example, there was one lad who I always remember who was about 6 foot, and he was only in year. He was in about the second year in this was a secondary school, and when I asked him to visualise anything, he's wearing glasses and his eyes are going like this. And I went, "What are you looking at?" And anybody can try this for themselves. Just ask somebody if they can picture something that they really know really easily, like a cat or a dog. And he's looking like this, and I went, "What are you doing?" He went, "I have no idea." So I said, "Well, I'm looking at his eyes, and I'm thinking he's looking at something really, really long way away." And so I said to him, "Can you bring it a bit nearer? Because I don't think you can see it as far away as that." And he suddenly rocked back in the chair and went, "Whoops, it's on the window now." And he told me exactly what it was. And that was if you're for literacy in the English language, you need to be able to visualise words. He couldn't even visualise a cat that he could actually see. And it's so rewarding when you just offer somebody a bit of a encouragement and go, "I think you could bring it nearer," and whoops, it did.
How amazing. Absolutely amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And it's not known about, but it's actually, as I say, it's in plain sight.
Yes.
If you actually watch people's eyes, as I do all the time, to know whether they're visualising or not, you can see it. That if they're looking up, they're visualising. If they're looking down, and this is something that every parent and teacher should know, if they're looking down, they're going to be in their emotions. And if they're miserable about struggling with literacy, don't let them look down.
Yes.
Just encourage them to look up all the time.
Absolutely. That's brilliant. So, Olive, what actually triggered you to start this work?
The event in my training triggered me to start this work, followed by going into the special needs school. And I went, if I can teach them, I can teach anybody. And that's what I started doing 25 years ago, which makes me seem really old. And then since then, I've been training students, youngsters, adults. I've taught in schools. I've taught teachers. But there is a resistance at the moment about doing this in school because it's not incorporated in teacher training in the UK, but it is in a teacher training course in Ireland.
Wow.
And so we have teachers coming through who have been involved in understanding this, but it does take time, and what we just need is open-minded teachers who are prepared to give it a go. They've got students that they know who are struggling, and if they want to give it a go, then we've got really either free support for them or very minimal cost support, so we can teach them how to do it.
So why isn't it in schools here then?
Because it's not the way the government sets the national curriculum. I'm sorry to say. The national curriculum is all about what the word sounds like, and for some children, sounds like doesn't work very well. So the children that are struggling, and I'd much rather meet children before they're struggling, because they've got all sorts of more stress if they're struggling already. But if they're struggling, and I check out whether they can visualise things, and normally, interestingly, they are always, I would say 100%, are really good at visualising stuff, but they haven't thought of visualising words. So it's really easy to teach them how to visualise words. We've got a few tricks along the way that we've learned out, and so we are not stopping schools doing the phonic training that they're doing. We are doing it in parallel, because you need both. And whatever scheme you go through, you need to be able to visualise words. And we know, thanks to the neuroscience, we know exactly how that works. And so that's exactly how we teach people.
That's amazing because, as you know, I'm dyslexic and it is the sound. My type of dyslexia is the phonological sound. I don't hear the sound. So that would be absolutely useless for me anyway. And that's probably why I didn't learn at school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so all we need to do is to teach you how to visualize the words, and you'll find that things like reading and spelling and also even handwriting
Yes.
improves. There is a special place in your brain, I'll give you a little bit of technology, which holds, it's called the visual word form area, and it holds what the word sounds like, what it looks like, and what it means, all locked together in one place. And in my 25 years of working with students, I have an interesting statistic. Not one dyslexic is reliably using their visual word form area. Not one. And so I teach them how to do it. And then they need to practice because they've been doing something else all their lives, but they can relatively quickly pick it up, as I did.
Yes.
I'll give you an interesting statistic for me, is that when I was at school, I would always be going to sleep reading because it was such hard work.
Yeah.
I can now read a 300-page book in a weekend.
Wow.
That's the difference this made to me. And if you want that for your children, then just contact me because we can organise that. And it is really, really simple once you understand the trick, which, as I say, is in plain sight.
Absolutely. So that nicely goes on to my next question. What has it grown into over the last 25 years?
Well, yes. One of the first things I've always do is ask people what they're good at, all the time. And we found that people who were struggling with literacy were really good at visual things. Now that sounds counterintuitive because I'm saying they're really good at visual things, they're really creative, they're imaginative, they're problem solvers, etc. We found that this was a really common thread, and they'd all got great mental images, but they just never thought of using these images for words. And so that's one thing. I have carried on talking for 25 years about the exceptional strengths of these people. And what do we need in the world after primary education? We need people who can solve the difficult problems in the world. And these people are actually some of the best problem solvers we have. And we're sidelining them into special needs and going, there's something wrong with these people. And I go, no, there's not. There's something wrong with the way us big people are teaching these people. And it is so easy to let teachers carry on doing what they're doing, but give them extra tools in the toolbox. We know not every child, I mean, if I ask a teacher, does every child learn the same? And they'll go, no. So this is how we solve the problem, if you like. So what else has it grown into? I've challenged the definition of dyslexia, which hasn't been popular, because I do think that teachers need more skills to teach visual thinkers. And I've actually even produced a curriculum for visual thinkers. So actually, we've done the job that the government really should have done about for visual thinkers. And don't forget, these visual thinkers are really talented. And then what else have I done? I've drifted into ADHD because ADHD people, diagnosed or undiagnosed or self-diagnosed or whatever, have normally got extremely good mental images and lots of them. They're normally somewhat overwhelming their heads. And so some of the stuff we do for literacy is really useful for ADHD as well. And by the way, there is a huge overlap between dyslexia and ADHD. So if you're really confused about literacy, you'll start looking like ADHD. I'm not saying that's a formal diagnosis, but it happens so often. I mean, when I looked up figures recently, some were like 60%, some were 40%. I mean, somewhere, I don't know where they are in between, but there is definitely a connection there. And I believe the connection is mental imagery. Oh, and then in the last year, we've added in early years to try and teach this to preschoolers before they start getting confused in primary school. And now we're also doing some work for how to teach teachers who aren't coaches, but how they can integrate what we do into their normal 30 children classroom. And that's going to be really helpful to them, because we can't expect teachers to do the whole coach training, which is what I did. And I'm a coach who primarily works one-on-one. But what we can do is give them a script, if you like, that they can go through quite easily, and they can explore the children's experience.
Wonderful. I mean, to be able to even go to preschool now and catch them before they've even gone into school, that's amazing. And that's what you want to do before they've got confused with everything else that's going on.
Exactly. I was lucky enough to be invited by Early Years in Wales to do some webinars for them, which they have made available to their early years settings in Wales. So I'm desperate to hear how they're getting on with that. And we've got a couple of primaries, actually 4 preschools who are all also doing this in further up in the north of England.
Absolutely wonderful. And that's what you want.
Yeah.
An easier way for people to learn.
Yeah.
Without all the stress, getting overwhelmed, getting frustrated. Just cut all that out.
And we know that the thing I was saying earlier, the visual word form area, we know that can be populated without breaking words apart. You know, if you see the word dog enough times, it will start loading into your visual word form area without you doing anything else. So what we do is we encourage people, parents and teachers, to put pictures on the wall. You know, they've all got pictures on the wall of dogs and cats and zebras and things. Just write the word on the side of the dog and the cat. And so it encourages them to start absorbing words at the same time as the pictures.
Absolutely fantastic. Really is. So, Olive, what is your driving force then? Because you're still doing it now.
I am. And what's the driving force? When you coach a child and you see the child light up with joy, especially when they suddenly realise they can do something they thought was impossible, that's what drives them. And so it's about seeing them change. And, you know, there's so many people now who are identified as having poor literacy, dyslexia or whatever, and are going, oh, well, that's all right, we've got workarounds. And I go, well, actually, you really could do with picking up how to do this reliably, because even if you've got workarounds, it's pretty stressful. You know, you just imagine, for example, you go into a restaurant with a friend and you can't read the menu, right? And that just isn't fair. And that generates more stress in you. So it's much better if we can stop it happening. But that's where I'm in conflict with the people who identify dyslexia as being something wrong with the child. My attitude is there's nothing wrong with them.
Yeah.
We need to teach them differently.
I couldn't agree more. Absolutely. That really is a statement there, which everyone should take on board. Yes. And how much courage did it take?
I just think I'm a lunatic, really.
You like the challenge?
I think it's because it happened to me. I knew exactly what poor literacy was like for 50 years. I was really lucky I could do maths. By the way, maths is another visual skill. But I could do maths, so I ended up taking a maths degree. So I actually managed to get a good chunk of education, even with really poor spelling and reading. I do have a report from my head teacher when I was 16 years old, which said it would be useful if Olive could learn to spell. And I'd been there since I was 4.
Yeah.
And whatever they'd done hadn't worked. So, you need to change the way you're looking at it.
For sure. Honestly, for sure.
For children who can read and spell, I mean, it's all very well to say technology is going to help. Technology does help, but it's not everything. And it just opens the world to them for what they want to do in the future.
Absolutely. Skills. They, nothing will be impossible then for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have friends who've done training with me who say, I'm a nightmare now because I'm forever reading, and I tell them they should be reading other books, and their bedside table is full of books because I've read them. And this is something I never did any of the children's books when I was a kid. I never read any because it was just impossible.
Yeah, same here. I mean, as you know my story, I read my first book cover to cover when I was 35 years old.
Yeah, you did better than I did. I waited till I was 50.
And now, honestly, there's so many books in the house. I've actually got, funnily enough, I was actually thinking this morning, I've actually got 5 bookcases in my house.
Yeah.
I love reading.
And when you were a kid, how many did you have?
0.
0. Me too.
Absolutely. It's amazing, isn't it? Once you know how, then you know.
Yeah.
It's getting that know-how.
On the back of one of my books, somebody wrote a testimonial for me. And I'm going to butcher it. I can't remember quite how it goes, but basically it said, once you know something, you can't unknow it.
Great. Absolutely great.
And you have to tell other people.
Yes. So now an interesting question for you. So what is this whole neurodiversion, and for anyone that's listening that doesn't know, and there's been a lot of different press about it, if people are neurodiverse or they're not. There's a lot of different things. Give me your take on it.
Lovely lady in Australia who who came up with the term neurodiverse. Now, if you think about it, we are all diverse. We are all neurodiverse. We've got different size clothes, different size shoes. We do lots and lots of things. Human race is pretty diverse on, more so than the animals. If you see one golden retriever, you probably, they're probably pretty similar to another. But the human race is sort of more diverse. She had autism in her family. And so she came up with the expression neurodiverse to try and make her family more inclusive in the world, as it were, which was a really great, it was for her PhD, and it really took off across the world. So that was neurodiverse. But then what I think was a setback was that people started saying, well, some people are neurotypical and some people are neurodivergent. And I went along with that for a long time. But who's got the right to say what is a neurotypical person? I don't think anybody has. I mean, because we're all different, we've got all sorts of different things going on, and there's no reason why we should be. Anybody can identify what is neurotypical. It was referred to as basically the children who succeed with the way we are teaching them in school. So that was the neurotypicals. Then we had the neurodivergents, which was the people who didn't work with the way we were teaching them in school, which made them sound as if there was something wrong with them. And that's where all the categories of dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, ADHD and autism came in. So anybody with one of those is typically known as neurodivergent. A year ago to the day, actually the day before yesterday, January the 1st last year, I refuse to use the words neurotypical and neurodivergent anymore. I call everybody neurodiverse now because because of the reasons I've just given you.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's completely outrageous to say anybody is typical and anybody is somehow faulty, because I come from I've done NLP training, and my attitude always is, if you've got a problem, let's talk about it. Let's talk about what's driving it. Let's see if we can jointly come up with a way to improve it. And that's exactly what I've done with literacy. And similarly with ADHD, I don't claim to cure ADHD, but there is a lot of things that we know about mental imagery and ADHD and stress that can definitely help people. So it's that's the way I look at it. And going back to dyslexia, I mean, there may be people that there will be people who find it difficult to visualise words. I'll totally accept that fact. But with a bit of practice and being open-minded, most people can do it. And in my experience, everybody I've met who isn't using visualization for words has managed to learn it. Some people have done it better than others. Some people have practiced more than others, etc. But everybody can do it. It does take practice. It takes practice because you've been doing something completely different for the last few decades. You know, that's why it's so important to get to small children.
Wow.
Does that answer your question?
Absolutely. And I think I'm with you there. Everyone's unique. Everyone's got a neuro side to them. So,
Yeah.
And I don't really like these boxes or categories anyway. I'm always, thinking outside the box, but I'll say, what box?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the great thing about neurodiversity. And, that's if I have a list of 40 skills that are that originally I called neurodivergent. I now call them neurodiverse. And that thinking outside the box is on the list. And we need these skills in people. We don't need them to be suppressed into, oh no, you've got to do things like this, 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 and this, because that's not the way your brain works.
And wasn't it a while back at the Bletchley Circle, they wanted people that were dyslexic because of the way they thought differently, which was such a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got some companies like GCHQ and Google and people like that promoting the fact that they want to recruit people who are neurodiverse because they want to. People come up with the most extraordinary things when you're neurodiverse. If you've gone through, I was reading a book recently about, well, it was sort of about dyslexia, but it was about the amazing things people do. It's called, let me just get this, Seeing Things That Others Do Not See. And by Thomas G. West, by the way. And he's got lots of stories in there about meeting people who have a different way of thinking, basically. Whatever field you're in, you might be an architect, you might be a biologist, you might be a software engineer or whatever. And what he was saying was, which is so true, is that there's some people that go through the system in a very linear way, and get to being really good and PhDs and stuff, whatever it is. And you get these other people who come in at sort of an angle that go and jump all that lot, didn't do very well at school, but actually come up with the most amazing solutions to problems. And he was noting that quite a few of the Nobel Prize winners have got that very neurodiverse view of the world. And they're the ones that come up with the completely out of the box thinking.
And it's so true, honestly. It's just amazing how being different is actually quite a good thing because we're adding to the world, not taking away.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
And I think personally myself, I've got a really good spatial awareness as well. I can actually fit things into places, as whereas some people just kind of said, "Oh, let me do that for you," and change things around and sort it out.
Well, I'm the I can use that word. I'm the neurodiverse person in the family. My husband is the opposite angle. Now, he's an unbelievable reader, can get totally absorbed in things. I don't do that. I'm much more, I can read now fantastically well, but I'm forever making quantum leaps, and I'm going, is that true? I did one the other day and went, oh, can I share this one with you? This is a quantum leap of mine that I don't know if it's true. Is the way we are teaching visual students, because we all start as visual little people when we're born.
Yes.
So we now know how to teach visual students. And is this a solution to the challenges we're seeing in schools these days, where children got all sorts of behavioural challenges because the way we're not teaching them the way we're teaching them isn't working for them. They want to be more creative and imaginative. They want to be more self-directed and exploring. And so lots of these things are exactly what we're doing with visual thinkers.
And I think that's so true. It is the way it is.
So as I say, I don't know how long it'll be before we can get that into schools. Because what I'd love to see is some schools saying, right, we're going to give this a go. Because I said to a head teacher the other day, how many dyslexics have you got enrolled? And there's a lot. There's 2 or 3 in every class, if not more. And how much effort and how much cost is going into that? And what about trying teaching them in a different way and seeing what happens there?
And that's brilliant. I think it should be made a priority. Personally, myself,
I would love it to be. Unfortunately, the party line is let's assess more people. Let's assess them younger. Let's teach them phonics younger, because that's the only way to teach them. But it's not the way to teach preschoolers.
So what would you like to achieve now? You've achieved a lot anyway, huge amount. So what's on your list?
With respect to work, I want to get more schools who have got a head teacher who is going, I've heard about this, I want to see it working, and I'm going to make it happen. We have one teacher in Ireland. We have more than one teacher who's made a success of it, but we have one really well-known teacher in Ireland who is a principal of a primary school, and he has the whole school is integrated into visual learning, and he's the guy that now teaches in teacher training, and so I want more of him in other parts of the country or in other parts of the world, because you can. The other thing about this is you can teach it in any language. Once you're visualizing words, it doesn't matter if you're visualizing words in French or in Swahili or anything.
Yes.
It's the same technique. So any school can take it on, and what I want is schools who take it on and really commit to it and go and then tell me what happens. We've had one of our practitioners has done another piece of research quite recently, and she's just finishing it for her thesis about the results of this. And she said it's just been mind-boggling what people are saying and who have actually succeeded in using it. And so I'd love to see more research on it. I think the research I'd really like to see is whole schools. I want a school to put up their hand and go, we'll do this for the whole school. And it could be a special needs school. It doesn't have to be a mainstream school. And that we are really committed to doing this. And we are, in conjunction with what we're doing already, we're going to run them in parallel, and we are going to, I'm looking forward to the day when people can say, we don't have dyslexia in our school.
Yeah. That would be an absolute achievement.
Think how much money it would save.
Yeah, absolutely.
And parents end up, because there's an awful lot of testing going on at the moment, and it's really expensive, and testing is good to prove what they can't do, but it doesn't prove what they can do. A few of people, when they make recommendations now, do actually put a little sentence in about what we do. But it all, in my view, do an assessment and then say, you've got a visual thinker, look at doing this to teach them how to do literacy.
Yes. And I think you've just preempted my next question, which was, what changes have you seen in the school system that has improved? So, yeah.
I mean, the school system is very busy trying to do a phonic approach, but and they're doing a good job of it, but it just doesn't work for all children. And another problem we have is that we have parents who never did phonics. So they might be really good at spelling and reading, or they might not be really good at spelling and reading, depending on whether it worked or not. But they don't understand how their children are being taught. And so that's another challenge. I have one of my practitioners who actually now runs ADHD classes for grandparents, because that's a really interesting topic. If your child has got children who are being diagnosed as ADHD, for example, who are, got behavioural challenges, all sorts of things going on, the grandparents can't understand this at all. Grandparents will often turn around and say, don't be ridiculous, pull yourself together or something, because it didn't exist in their day. It's completely out of their scope of understanding. And so the girl that's running those classes uses our information plus her coaching information, and is really helpful to grandparents who just don't understand, never had the training, never experienced it. If I hadn't done this, I'd be in the same boat as that. When I was at school, this ADHD didn't exist, and we hadn't identified dyslexia. We just got some people who were just, looked upon as being stupid and couldn't spell and read.
For sure.
So we have moved on a long way since then, but we need to be more open-minded to different possibilities for different kids.
And that's the key here. Open-minded with the possibilities of anything. There is, and I don't understand why they haven't realised, or they have realised, why are the government not doing more? Because obviously they realise what they're doing in schools doesn't work. How many people have said, literacy doesn't work now?
Last year, in 2024, I responded to 4 government initiatives, and they're not easy government initiatives. You're asked 150 questions, and your brain is going all over the place. And I responded to 4 of them. I haven't seen any results yet of all the work I put into that. And so I'm erring now towards, let's prove it with some schools, so that but you need the whole school approach. You can't just have the Senko takes this on. She needs to get the rest of the teaching staff to understand enough about how these children learn. And so if we've got any volunteers from this, please let me know, and I will endeavour to help you make some progress and potentially save you a lot of money. Oh, I should have mentioned one thing. We don't have a purely phonetic language. English, there are languages, Spanish, Italian, and I think it's Swedish or Norwegian, it's one of the northern countries, who have got perfectly phonetic languages. And so what you hear is what you write. And it's easy. English isn't. English has so many rules. We have words that break the rules. We have those wonderful things called homophones, which are, now if anybody doesn't know what a homophone is, it's like where and where.
Mm.
So something you wear, or where has the car gone or something.
Mm.
They are pronounced exactly the same, and they have got completely different spellings and completely different meanings. Those are homophones, and we have hundreds of them in the English language. You need to be able to visualise homophones to stand a chance of remembering which is which. Because what we do when we teach them, we get them to, write where, W-E-A-R, and a little sketch of a T-shirt, for example, on a card, so that every time they think of where, they see the T-shirt. Or, we do cards for each one of the words. And so there you go. We can help with the English language. We're never going to change the English language. And so we might as well learn how to work with it.
And that's the key thing here, is adjusting ourselves. It's about adjusting it. Like you said, the English language is solid, it's not going to change.
Yeah.
But our approach on it and how we deal with it absolutely can change.
Yeah. And head teachers do need to challenge the system, because they've also got Ofsted to deal with. But this is going to produce better results, Ofsted results for them, if they are open-minded to doing both things they need. I think go back to the thing I said earlier. When coaching a child or being a parent to a child, you don't have to be a coach, or you can be a teacher. I see them light up with joy, especially when they realise they can do things they thought was impossible. And children will say to me so often, "Oh, I can do that. I didn't know I was meant to be doing that. Oh, I can do that." And, I've got children who I've worked with who now have PhDs, and when they were, because I've been doing it so long, 25 years, when I worked with them, they were 8 or something, and they're now 20 something or other, and they can't even remember struggling with literacy.
It's amazing, isn't it? Absolutely amazing. Just that little shift, and it has a big impact.
Yeah.
So if there was one key takeaway you want every listener to walk away with today, what would that be, Olive?
Look for inspiring children. That's what it's about. It's not about me. It's about what the children can achieve. And when I hear what some children have achieved, I just think it's just amazing, because I know where they came from, as it were.
Yeah, I mean, my personal story as well, I know what it's like. And the thing is, I love talking to you, Olive, because you always go against the grain. And I love that about you. Let's do this. Why not?
So my wish, whilst I am still doing this, or whilst I'm still on the planet, because I have no intention of stopping, is that we have more schools who can act as exemplar schools of going, this is what we are doing, this is how it works, this is what we did, this is how we got trained, and this is how the head teacher made it happen. That's the key thing. We need head teachers who, in point of fact, I should probably be asking if I can talk at the head teachers conference. We need head teachers who will actually go the extra mile and go, yeah, we've got so many kids who are struggling, there must be something else we can try, so let's try this. That's all I really need from somebody, and to be open-minded and make it happen.
Definitely. Absolutely. And come on, I'm cheering you on. There's a lot of people that actually are cheering you on, because it's so much needed. They just don't understand. I don't get
exactly.
it personally.
I mean, if I talk to a parent, sometimes I get from a parent, I talked to school about this, and they don't like, and they don't accept that you should be doing that. And it's like, okay, but the proof of the pudding is in the plain sight. Is when you have a child turn around to you and say, I didn't know I was meant to be doing that.
It's simple.
Yeah.
It is simple.
Listen to our kids. You know, that's one of the things, one of the messages.
So where can the listeners get your books, find you online? What's your website, Olive?
Yes, the website is called empoweringlearning.co.uk. Please be careful because there is a .com one, who are a very nice organisation, but we've unfortunately got the same name. And they are a recruitment for teachers. They are not doing what I'm doing. So you need to look up .co.uk. There is also, we now have a learning platform, because one of these days I'm going to have to retire. And so there is a learning platform at visualkids.co.uk. And there's lots of free stuff there, and there's lots of books there. And so between those two platforms, all the books are there, and the training and the free stuff. And so there's loads of stuff you can have a look through. And the other thing is, when I decided to go down the neurodiverse route a year ago in January, I started doing blogs which are called visual thinking. And you don't just find those with olivehickmott.co.uk. And regularly I am posting information about things you can start looking at in really small snippets, so things you can start trying out for yourself.
And Olive, all the links will be in the show notes. So listeners, just go along to the show notes, click on things and get the help you need, or pass it on to someone that you know needs the help.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Absolutely. And thank you for sharing your insightful wisdom and knowledge with us today. And by doing so, I know you are helping so many other people and you're making such a big difference, Olive. I really want to acknowledge you for that, Olive Hickmott.
Thank you very much. And if anybody else has got podcasts running, I'd love to come and talk there. I don't go very far these days, so doing them from home is much, much easier for me. Thank you so much for the invitation, and I look forward to passing it on to other people.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Thank you.
So with that said, we are all about Create the Courage to Be Fearless podcast. What is your definition of courage?
Oh, that's the tough one you were going to. You said, what's my definition of courage? I don't think I have one. But to be honest, I just think, just try it. See what you can do. I mean, if it wasn't for the kids in special needs school, I would never have believed what I could do. Those were the original kids that I worked with. I asked the guy I knew who was the deputy head, and I went, let's give this a try. And without the extraordinary results with those kids, who basically never thought they'd be able to spell anything because they'd been struggling in primary school for years and they were now in special needs. Without them, if that had come, if I got turned down by them, if you like, or not inspired, the opposite to saying not inspired by them, I would have probably given up. They were the ones that inspired me, that, my goodness, I can do this. And I literally had 15 minutes training as a little module in my NLP training.